Welcome. You've splash landed into this Prosecco-laden podcast, straight into the woo-woo pool with the crew of Ohm-g. We're just a simple group of tragically imperfect and highly empathic BFFs, exploring a wide range of atypical topics with humor, grace, and curiosity. This is Ohm-g. Welcome, everyone, and thanks for joining us. Today's topic: where does the woo crew go to unleash their artistic demons? Y'all, it's the perfect recipe for a Sunday fun day. These questions and more will be answered on this artistic episode of
Ohm-g Willikers, the podcast.
Brenda here.
Camille here.
And Tandra here.
And Lynn. And we're so glad that you are joining us today. I am going to introduce to you today one of my longtime friends who is an entrepreneur, an amazing woman, and a hella creative being. And she recently opened a place called Dabble Art Bar that is located in Winston-Salem. And if you follow us on Instagram, you probably saw that the Ohm-g Woo Crew recently went to Dabble for a field trip, and we had a blast. So we did card readings, and then we made art inspired by those readings, and it was so much fun. So without further ado, cue the confetti, and and let's welcome my friend, Miss Sarah Schindler. Yay!
Thank you, everyone. Don't you feel special? I do. Make me want to cry.
Oh, no crying in the circle. No, just kidding.
Okay, so I have a question, a very basic question. What is Dabble Art Bar?
Sure. It is a place that we just opened in September, and it is a place that has an art bar, a gift shop, and it's just a gathering place for the community. And what an art bar is, basic terms, is a place where you come in and you can order a creative activity off of a menu. It's got like a coffee house bar vibe. And so just like you would order a drink, instead of doing that, you can order watercolor or collage or drawing or a number of different activities. And then find a cozy little place to sit, hang out for a few hours, work on your project, and we clean it all up when you're done.
So you don't even have to clean up after
yourself. You don't have to clean, which is the hardest part for people.
So you've got like all the supplies and all the different paints and brushes and papers and available for anybody to do pretty much any kind of artwork.
And it's, a lot of people ask if they need reservations or can only do certain things at certain times, but anytime we're open, you can just order anything off the menu. And our daily menu is watercolor, drawing, collage, air dry clay, coloring, and I might be forgetting one. And then during different holidays, we'll have seasonal options as well. Like we did a lot of different stuff around Christmas and for Valentine's Day, and do like special crafts that you can do to celebrate. Everything is self-led. We offer information and tips and can offer moral support if you work in your project. But the intention really is for people just to play and have fun, especially as adults. We don't really have that outlet. So, most of the time when we get together with friends, it revolves around eating and drinking. And I love both of those things, but to have something else to go and do and a different way to be social is really the purpose of Dabble. So all of the activities are designed with adults in mind, but you can come in as families and, do projects together with your kids. Like kids are welcome, but it's geared for adults.
So I have a question for you, Sarah. What inspired you to launch this concept of Dabble Art Bar? Because I've never been anywhere like that before until I came to the Dabble and dabbled in the arts.
Yeah.
And not the dark kind.
Right.
For once.
Yeah. It was sort of a winding process to get here. It's a lot of following the breadcrumbs. So the space where Dabble lives right now, which is, if you're familiar with Winston-Salem, in the West End near the Porch restaurant. I had originally leased that space for another business that I had. And during COVID, it was just became clear that like continuing to invest in that business didn't make sense. But I already had the space. So I thought, well, my background, like my education was in art. I was an art student in college and then had a career in marketing and product development. So I was kind of like in this moment of transition in my life. I was like, well, maybe I'll use this space as like a studio space for me and like reconnect with art. And then I was like, well, it's big enough. I could have a little shop. And then I was like, well, other people want to do art. And so I started hosting workshops. And then during this process, as I was trying to figure out what the business was going to be, I participated in this entrepreneurial program in Winston called Velocity, which is geared towards creative people with business ideas and helping them kind of bring that business knowledge to the creative side. And so through that process, became friends with one of the mentors. And one day he sent me a link to a profile. I was like, hey, I thought you'd be into this. And it's this place in New York called Happy Medium. And part of their business model is an art cafe. And I was like, oh my gosh, that makes a lot of sense. So it kind of took the basic construct of idea of having menu of options and then making it our own. So like the way the space is designed with like the bar vibe, we bring in live music like jazz bands or DJs and different experiences to enhance the creative process. So it was really, it was like one step leads to another step leads to another step. But since I'm with a woo crew, I can, like a deeper level, I really feel like it was something that I was led to do. And since I've opened up my place, I've learned of one in DC. There's one in Texas, like people kind of doing this similar concept. And it just feels like this is a time where we need other outlets to just relax, to connect with others, to have a safe space, to let go.
To connect with ourselves, because most of the time we scroll on social media or you're just zoned out. You're not paying attention to yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting, like, as people come in and, even that's why we have coloring on the menu, because it's like low barrier, like you can just sit and color. People will be like, this is the most relaxed I've been in months.
Yeah.
So it's just amazing to see what people create and then just watch kind of like a softness come over them and a stillness. Even like, I was joking with you guys when you were in, I've never seen y'all that quiet.
Facts. Facts. All facts.
That was actually one of my other questions is, what do you notice about people when they sit down and start to work on something? Like, how do they change? Because I know when we were in there, like, you're right, that is the quietest we have ever been. But just to be able to, like, be so focused on something that you're creating that you get to take home with you also was very meditative almost for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My mind goes 200 miles a minute.
Yeah. So
on a slow day.
Yeah. And I think that's what a lot of people experience. There was this week I had a adult daughter come in with her mom and they sat and they did clay. And so they're each just playing with clay. You come in and, and it's like people bring in the stress of the day or whatever's going on with them. And they're there. So they're interested, but they can feel like a little closed off or, they just got stuff going on. And then, they were there probably like 2-3 hours. And then by the end, like they were both just like all chatty and very open. And the mom said to me, she said, I had a really rough week and this was perfect. She's like, this is just what I needed. I feel so much better. And that's just, that's like, just warms my heart to have that space where people can come and have that experience.
And what do we usually do whenever we've had a bad week? We pick up a bottle of wine. So it's like a healthy way of like de-stressing and getting back in touch with yourself again.
And the whole creative process. The first time I went to Dabble, Lynn took me. We went to a Bob Ross painting class, listened to yacht rock, sang, had beverages, and had the best time. And I'm not much of an artist myself, but that painting I did is hanging in my house right now. So it was a dazzling outcome, and I really loved it.
Yeah.
Dazzling.
Just dazzling.
I mean, think about it. At home, you're not going to go buy the supplies.
No.
You're not going to cut everything perfectly. You're not going to go clean up after yourself and relax and do the project. You don't have to worry about that at Dabble.
Yes, I love that about being there to do that, because you don't have to clean up after yourself. You don't have to take out all the things. They're like already there.
Yeah. You know, I actually was reading some quotes a few days ago, and I just wrote them down because they just rang true with me. That art is shadow work that transmutes pain into beauty.
Ooh.
Chills.
I know. So it's just all about getting it out, getting your emotion out, because because creativity is with the sacral. Yes. Thank you, Brenda. I'm sorry. I have a little bit of COVID brain hangover. But so now, so y'all made me forget what I was talking about.
The shadow self.
The shadow self.
Pain into beauty. Sacral chakra.
Pain in the beauty and the sacral. And so when Sarah came in today, she brought a painting with her that she did in the early 90s. And it was before she knew about anything woo. And the painting is so woo, y'all.
It's righteous.
But it's all that getting in touch with yourself and getting your sacral chakra working and see what comes out.
And getting your conscious out of the way so that your
Yeah.
higher self and your subconscious can let stuff out finally.
Yeah, it was also talking about when you engage in any creative project, that can become a healing modality
Mhm.
that awakens the inner child, which is always good because, that little girl and little boy probably needs healing done, but it purges that stuck energy. And so when you hear people say things like, think outside of the box, or we need a creative solution, grab you some crayons, sit down and color.
Oh, and they have glitter, y'all. Free glitter. Now I don't have to clean it up.
Chandra's a Gemini, so both of them were impressed.
So, Sarah, can I ask you who inspires you, art-wise, or to get into that space of creativity or of being connected?
That's a good question. I think a lot of people have inspired me throughout my life. I think one that kind of stands out, and I was just talking to her this week about somebody who came in the shop, is Georgia O'Keeffe. And
yeah.
I have this picture of her. She's probably in her 60s, in the middle of the desert. And there's some young guy driving the motorcycle. She's hopped on the back of the motorcycle. And it's 1942. And it's just, she's such an incredible artist and so intuitive and just so ahead of her time. And such a total badass, living out there, in the wild on her own in the 40s. I mean, it's just, her whole vibe is very inspirational to me. So she's kind of sort of been with me my whole life. But then recently I was just talking to you guys before we started about Rick Rubin, who is music producer and, very much into meditation and being in touch with himself and connecting to source. And through his years of producing music and working with a variety of different artists, has kind of this approach to being creative. And recently wrote a book. And if you follow him on Instagram, he'll just post one simple little thing, a quote or a thought to take with you and process. And then it sort of disappears. And the next day something else comes along. Anyhow, but he's been very inspirational to me just in helping me kind of think differently about creativity, and where I'm someone who very much can put pressure on myself. And as a creative person or an artist, feeling this you want it to be good and you want other people to like it. And, if you're trying to do it for a career that's going to be financially successful and all this. And how he explains it is it's really, you got to let go of that pressure, and that it's your idea, but it's really coming from a higher place. And it's more about kind of like tuning in your antenna to receive and letting things come through, and then also just embracing it as a process. So I just saw something he said the other day where he's like, think of like creating as like a journal entry. And it's what you feel in the moment and that day. And the next day you can write something different. And no one really has a right to say whether it's good or bad or place judgment on it. It's just what you feel in the moment. So anyone who's kind of interested in exploring their creative side, I would suggest like looking into his philosophy on it, because it's different than what you hear.
It sounds totally like a channeling experience, like getting your ego out of the way and just let whatever is coming in come through and without judgment.
Exactly.
Because it's neither good nor bad. It's information, that's coming in.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
I don't think you could walk into Dabble without your higher self going shotgun, honestly. The perception that I felt that. Go ahead.
Riding shotgun now.
Yeah, Camille was the embodiment of that when she did like the Scarlett O'Hara on the velvet couch.
Yeah, I think creativity, it really isn't about being good at it, because good is judgment, right? I think it's about creativity being good for you.
Quote of the day.
Mic drop.
Creativity is good for you.
It is good for you. And sometimes Brenda Sue would be saying, I'm not good at creating. I'm not good. So whining. I'm sorry. Sorry, Brenda. I do love you. But, people a lot of times, not just Brenda, but a lot of people, they're like, I can't do art. I'm not good at it. It isn't about being good at it. It's about just unleashing the emotions that you have within and let them come through with whatever you're working with.
Well, and for people who may be doing the art as a healing exercise,
right?
When you are trying to let go of that trauma, to like get into a space where you're letting things out, the perfectionist comes up and you're like, well, that's not quite the right color, and coloring out of the lines, God forbid you do that.
This won't resonate with others.
Right. I mean, you're looking at it, and it's because for people who aren't artists, it's hard to put on the paper what you see in your mind, because you don't have the talent to fully do that. So the perfectionist comes in and says, that's not what you saw. That's not good enough. And so to me, it was a very good exercise in telling that bitch to shut up and just throwing down some paint, and it was very cathartic. It was.
Just letting go.
Y'all, it was glittery.
Yeah. And even if you can't paint, like, I'm not a painter either, but collaging, y'all, that's my favorite. Like, I love like finding the images and just putting them on the board, and it doesn't have to make sense to anybody but you.
Right. It might be only what you're feeling that hour.
Yeah.
That day.
Yeah. Although my Bob Ross is hanging in my bedroom. So it was a good class.
Happy little tree.
Happy accidents.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that was, his philosophy. And it's like Lynn, you were talking earlier about like inner child, and, and Chandra about the judgment of like, I can't, and same with Brenda. But it's like, when you put crayons and paint in front of a child, they're not like, oh, well, I'm not creative.
Right.
Yeah. But there's something that happens to us as we get older. And I guess it's like, as we develop and like put that judgment on ourselves. So, it is very healing to just kind of go back to that childlike place and just play and have fun and practice letting go of the pressure and the expectation.
Yeah. I like to bring my little girl out when I go there.
So, question for you, since you are an artist, like, are you able to drop into that space and get out of the planning space of having your business and that as your business? Are you able to do that for yourself personally to like play? Because I think if it was my business, I might be less likely to play. I'd be thinking in my logical mind about all the things that need to be done.
Bottom line.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I actually, I had intentions of using the space for my own work and doing things like when we were closed, but I have a hard time when I'm there. I'm like in host mode,
Right.
and I'm thinking about like what, if there's people there, what can I do? Do they need something? Do they not? And we leave people alone, but I've always have like an eye, like watchful eye of like, okay, wait, maybe I need to go see if they need help or they need fresh water for their watercolor. It's hard for me to like drop in and just let go and be in that space in Dabble. Yeah.
I would think that would be difficult for me as well. Do you have a place at home that you do your own thing?
I've got a spot picked out. And actually, I was just talking this morning about one of the things I want to like play with more is just expressive painting. So kind of like a Jackson Pollock or something like really abstract that's just like color and pattern. I personally really like just the physical movement of putting paint on a canvas. And I was like, what I might do is just get like a really big canvas and like prop it up and just go and just like paint on it, almost like kind of like a workout, and like then just see, maybe it turns into something over time. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just like the act of going and doing that. So I've got a little spot picked out where I think I'm going to just, experiment with just that exercise.
I think that's 100% what you do.
Absolutely.
What I'm getting is like, the more that you can be in that space, the more ideas and things are going to come through for you for the business too. So like, don't forget that part of yourself. Make sure you do that for you.
Yeah.
Because it's part of the process of creating the business to move to the next thing and the next thing and like come up with ideas.
And
that was just
the idea that popped into my head was like, you don't want to get to the place where you see that bottle of green paint and you don't see the potential in it. You just see, oh, I'm getting low on green paint and I need to go buy some more.
Yeah. No, it's
because it would be really easy to get in that space.
Stay in that process of like executing for others and, but y'all are right. It's like if I neglect my own creativity and my own little antenna, then I'll reach a wall where I don't have as much to bring or to be able to move forward.
But the abstract idea really, really appeals to me because that's something that I've always wanted to do. Like I've always Jason and I lived before where we live now, there was a big 2-story wall behind our couch and we didn't have anything big enough to put there. Right. And it bothered me the whole time that we lived there. And I was thinking, I could go get a huge canvas and use the colors in the room and just, make a big, and I had every intention of doing that, but never did because of fear.
Right.
Because it's not going to look good enough to put on the wall. And to this day, I regret not even trying to do that. Yeah.
We should do it. Even start small, like just play. And then, I think it's like if you're venturing into something, just to be like, okay, well, I'm going to try it. And if I don't like this one, I can do it again or I can do it differently. It doesn't have to be perfect the first time. There's someone that was in Dabble and he was an engineer and he was trying to do something like very exact and perfect. And we all loved it, but he felt like it wasn't as perfect as it was supposed to be. And Tony, who's on our team, was talking to him. It's like, yeah, but this is like the first or second time you've done this. So why would you expect, it takes practice to do something. So, we need to give ourselves that grace to learn and grow.
Yeah. To just do and not have any expectation of.
And take the technicality out of it too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I'm not very technical. So.
We're perfect.
No, I got caught up in a little bit of that when we were doing our last project at Dabble. I've got all my materials together and I'm staring at this canvas. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? And Sarah walked by and she's like, oh, you've chosen a few of my favorite things. And I was like, oh, I'm on the right track. Yeah. And there is no right and wrong. Period. But that little goose just kind of helped me go, oh, here's my collage.
Or that's a beautiful color palette that you've chosen. Oh, thank you.
I have approval. I can move forward. Got to break out of that, but it was helpful.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I was thinking about like with spiritual work and being a medium, being an energy worker, and how it's the same kind of thing. Like you get stuck in the process of serving everybody else, that you neglect your own growth or your own sitting down and drawing something. Same thing. So I'm curious of what your woo journey has been. Like, I know you're fairly fresh to the scene.
I'm a quick learner.
So you were woo before you knew you were woo from that painting from 81 or whatever year.
Yeah, I think it was
the spirals on.
Yeah.
The third eye.
Yeah, the third eye at the top.
Yeah.
And like even in the right place.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So about your woo journey, Sarah, what happened? Well, what happened was is one day I was at Sarah's house.
And I was holding the literature sheet in my hand.
A big old bag of it.
Yeah.
And
in the middle of a divorce, and Lynn looked at me and said, "You gotta get rid of all that guilt." I was like, what? And I started crying. Here we are.
And there we were standing in the bathroom, and she just got her first reading.
With cat litter.
While she was holding a bag of cat litter. Used.
Oh.
No, but it's,
Yeah. About taking the shit out.
There you go, Brenda, reading my mind.
No, but it's been, so I've been on a transformative journey over the last 3 years, and it started, COVID knocked everybody's boots. So I'm no different. Like, out of COVID, I entered into a divorce and like separation after a 25-year marriage. So went through the process of processing that and healing that wound, and then also kind of making the commitment to myself of like, I just don't want to get over this relationship. I want to like figure out how did I get it in the first place, and like these things that I felt like I've been carrying around. I've had issues with anxiety and depression and like different struggles throughout my life. I'm like, I really want to like just get through all of this.
And how to avoid jackasses in the future.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Not throwing shade or
so like started first working with a therapist and then doing spiritual work with Lynn through, we've done Reiki, we've done cleanses, we've done a lot of readings. First starting with cards and then, the Akashic. And it's, to me, and then also like I've been working on like exercise and yoga and not always like the best cook. Also, like I enjoy a cocktail.
Don't we all?
I did like all of the things, all of the coping things.
You'll need to leave word.
Pass the bottle of wine.
But to me, it's like bringing in the spiritual side. It was like, one of the tools and like part of my process. And it was funny because like I would go and like talk to a therapist and like work through things on a mental level. And then Lynn and I would sit down and like the messages that came through like reinforced. And it was usually the same sort of message, just maybe told in a different way. And it helped kind of like 3-dimensionalize what I was trying to process.
To me, it kind of feels like the difference between getting over it and healing it.
Exactly.
They're totally two different things.
Exactly. So it's been, just transformative. And then through this process, kind of connecting with my guides and opening up and, having my own experiences with them and with messages. And so, it's just like this whole other great big world, and it's opened my eyes to kind of my perspective, like what it's all about and how to like move forward in a way that's just about learning the lessons and applying and, just doing our best.
And paying it forward, which is really the crux of your business.
Yeah. I think it started out as like a place for me, and it's turned into like a safe space for a community to come in. And, and that's really special. And also I should mention, co-owner is my kid, Tuesday, who's 27. And so it's like a family business and multi-generational, and working together and us having this shared experience has been very precious. And I think makes it richer for, people who come in.
Yeah.
It's like it's a real extension of ourselves. It's like, part of our home.
Well, like the story you told earlier about the mother and daughter coming in and playing with the clay and having a conversation. That is paying it forward 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what started as like healing for you ended up being healing for a lot of people.
Right.
Yeah, which I love.
Well, but which that's usually how it happens.
Yeah.
I know you're on the right track.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Well, this is no conversation, and I can't wait to go back to Dabble again. And I got my T-shirt on today, y'all. Take a picture of this too.
Oh, they have great T-shirts.
Because Brenda's the goat.
This is Katharine Hepburn, right?
It is.
I love Katharine Hepburn. I used to watch all those movies back in the day.
Oh,
She was a fashion icon.
Yep.
So if you want to get your sacral right,
Put your mind at ease.
get on down to Dabble.
But I also would like to announce that Lynn, myself, and Carrie Foster Allison will be having an event at Dabble on April the 21st from 3 to 6. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be messages and then a artwork afterwards. So you have something to take home with you. It's going to be so much fun.
That will be a lot of fun.
Yeah. So it'll be limited to 25 people. It's just going to be so much fun.
Yeah. It'll be kind of like what we did with the Woo Crew when we went and did readings. You'll get your reading and then you can do art that's inspired by that.
Yeah. Magic.
On a trajectory with lots of colors sounds divine.
Yeah. So, Sarah, thank you so much for being a part of our podcast today.
Yeah, thank you all for having me.
It was fun to get to know you a little bit better. And
Y'all don't be trying to steal my friend.
oh, she's my friend now. All right, we love you guys. Take care. And we will talk to you on the next episode.
And go get creative.
Yep.
Peace out.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us today. Please follow and subscribe to our podcast on Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, and leave a review. It's so easy to do and such a huge help for us. We appreciate your interactions so much. Want to join us at our table? Make sure to check out our YouTube channel and join our Facebook community. If you've enjoyed this content and wish to support us, take a look at our Patreon page. All information and links will be in our podcast description. Catch you next time.
This podcast is part of the Sound Advice FM network. Sound Advice FM. Women's voices amplified.